So can you maybe touch on, just to educate everyone that's listening,
Sure.
because like the misconceptions around the seal hunt and why it's a good thing?
Yeah, so the biggest misconception people have about the seal hunt is that we hunt baby seals. First and foremost, cute white, white baby seals like this
Oh,
one.
little babies there.
That's what we hunt. It's been
For
illegal
anyone
to
listening,
hunt.
he held up a cute little
Sorry for
cute
folks who are on
puppy.
audio. I have a little ceramic white coat seal. I think it was a planter at some
It's
point.
very cute.
That someone bought for me as a joke. I think when I worked for the minister. So essentially, we don't hunt baby seals. White coat baby, the ones you see in all of the ads from everybody that's
All the
against hunting
anti-seal hunting
seals,
ads.
all the anti-seal hunting groups, IFAW, HSUS, Greenpeace, everybody else. It's been illegal to hunt white coat baby seals since 1987 in Canada. So it's not even a case of, well, we could, but we don't do it anymore. It's literally illegal to do. So, we hunt seals that are young. I'm not going to dispute that fact, but these are independent animals that have left their mother. They're, for all intents and purposes, an individual. They're no longer part of the family unit. They're individual
They're weaned
animals.
and self-sustained.
They're weans. They're self-sustaining. They're able to swim. The only difference between them and an adult seal is that they're smaller. And even within that, there's now a greater variance of ages of seals hunted, because different ages of seals are hunted for different reasons.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the first biggest one. Second one that we run into, I'd say less in Canada, but especially internationally, is seals are endangered. And seals are far from, I should say, with a couple very particular caveats, seals are very far from endangered. The harp seal, that's the primary seal that's the target of the seal hunt. The population is somewhere between 4.5 and 7.5 million animals.
And that impacts the fisheries and everything, right? Like that impacts
Absolutely
the environment greatly, I think.
So we can't have 7 million animals that are a couple hundred pounds that are very flexible predators that basically will eat whatever they can get their mouth on, and have it not have an effect on the marine ecosystem. So we've done some work to calculate how much does the herd eat, or the overall seal population in the Northwest Atlantic eat in the course of a year, and the commercial fishery pales in comparison. Depending on what numbers you use, somewhere between like 46 times to 53 times the total catch of the commercial fleet is eaten by seals every year.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, and we've seen incredible growth in that population. In the 70s, we were below, we were down to maybe 100,000, 200,000 if we're lucky, harp seals.
Okay.
There was a very legitimate conservation concern, and it was interesting to see. I was born for another 40 years, but 30 years. But the evolution of like the initial anti-seal protests were about like, you're going to kill all the seals and there's going to be none left.
Mm-hmm.
And we were kind of headed there. And it wasn't just us as Canada. You had distant water fleets from Norway and from the Soviet Union, East Germany. We're all here hunting seals, because this was before the UN Convention on Law of the Sea. We only had control of 12 miles out from the nearest point of land.
Okay.
So, whereas now we have control of 200 kilometers from the nearest point of land. So there were a whole lot of great big factory boats from all over the world that were hunting seals in the Northwest Atlantic. And we were down to a couple thousand, as low as some estimates are 3,000, 6,000 gray seals. We now have 500,000. Like the ability of these animals to rebound from a very low number comparatively. 100,000 seals is still a lot of seals, but it's pretty spectacular. Those first rounds of anti-sealing protest were, similar to endangered species protests. They were like, you're gonna catch the last one.
Okay.
And very quickly it morphed into animal rights. You guys are evil because baby seals are cute. Not, you guys are evil because you're gonna get rid of all of the seals.
Yeah, and the fact that they are so cute, it's so easy to throw that picture up, throw up a
Oh yeah.
video of a seal getting clubbed, which is another thing that's a huge.
Oh yeah, red blood and white ice makes for very, very compelling visuals.
That's it.
There's enough communications and marketing and public relations classes around the world that use those, especially the big anti-sealing campaigns of the 80s, as like case studies for their students, because they're like, this is, they started out with like really compelling visuals and a really easy story to communicate, and they turned that into billions of dollars of support over the next however many 30-40 years.
Yeah, and we see it with, the anti-gun groups too. They'll use situations, I mean, in Canada, they'll use American incidents, or they'll use firearms that we don't even own or don't even exist
Yeah.
sometimes to try and make a case. And yeah, it's just really sad the way they play on people's, I don't want to say ignorance because that's kind of turned into a negative word in a sense, but people's lack of knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not to say that there isn't room to improve, and we've shown that in the Canadian seal hunt and in trapping as well. That with the proper motivation and with investment, we can improve the way we do things. Like, ironically,
Okay.
coming back to WWF, um, the process by which we kill seals, like the legal process, this is how you have to do it, was developed by a group of international veterinary experts. And that panel of veterinary experts was funded by the WWF.
That's big.
Like, the WWF was like, you guys are taking up way too much oxygen in the room about this friggin' seal hunt stuff when there's like millions of them. We're concerned about, like, there's like 17 rhinos left. Can we talk about the rhinos? We'll
Yeah.
pay for them to figure out the best way to kill a seal, the most humane way to kill a seal. Let's fix that problem, because the problem isn't that they're killing seals, because there's loads of them.
Mhm.
So let's deal with this humane piece, and then the rest of you can shut up, and we can talk about the real issues that are
Real issues.
facing
Yep.
wildlife around the world.
Oh my God. It
And
seems like that's an issue.
unfortunately, hasn't quite played out that way. But it was an interesting approach to be taken by an organization with the reputation that WWF has, of just like, we're going to be the adults in the room
Yeah.
and actually put our money where our mouth is and try and fix this.
So do you know what conclusion that panel of veterinarians came up with the most humane way to
Yeah,
dislodge a seal?
so this was back in the early 2000s.
Okay.
So the process, I don't know how gruesome you want me to get here. I can
Get
get
gruesome. People need to know.
so we call it the 3-step process, and there's a 3-step process to killing a seal humanely, and this is built right into the marine mammal regulations under the Fisheries Act. This is the only legal way for commercial seal harvesters to kill seals. And it's, you have to either shoot them or club them or hit them with a hack pick in the head. That is the stun phase. You then have to be, someone has to be hands-on with that animal and palpate the skull and feel both sides of the brain, of the head, and see if both sides of the brain have been compromised, so that we can reasonably say that they are now at the very least brain dead.
That's
and
something.
then and then the third step is the bleeding step. Is you take a knife, and there's 2 large veins that or arteries that run right under the flippers, and
Okay.
you cut those 2 blood vessels, and that bleeds the animal.
So that's where you get those overhead shots of a
Yeah,
seal
and that's
bleeding
where
one
you
on
get
one.
these overhead shots of a big red splotch on the ice, and someone there butchering a seal in the middle of it. Is, we often say, and it's not to it's not to take a shot at our good friends in animal agriculture, but it's, there's no picture windows on slaughterhouses.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
And that's the thing, is you get a helicopter sitting a couple hundred feet over you with like HD 4K cameras taking pictures of you slaughtering a seal. Like, it's not pretty.
It's not going to look good unless people are educated about it and know why you're doing what you're doing. I mean,
Exactly. And it's
yeah,
it's a higher standard than, basically any other wild animal harvest we have, because it was to hold it to a higher standard. Like that was the purpose, was let's
yeah.
hold this to a higher standard.
And it's species specific, so it takes into account, like, I guess, their anatomy and what
Well, that's
they.
it, is these were all things that were put together considering the fact that seals have a very different anatomy than an ungulate or something like that. So it certainly addressed the issues of, can you kill a seal humanely? But all of the groups that were anti-sealing still said, well, they were just like, well, it's impossible to do it humanely because it's ice and it's moving and there's too many moving pieces. And also at the core of it, we just don't want you to be allowed to do this anymore. So we will continue to come up with arguments as to why you shouldn't be able to do it, regardless of how much you do.
Especially when the humane method, which is a legitimate humane method, doesn't look or sound so great.
Exactly. Like that's that at the end of the day, and this is true of, just about any hunting outside of maybe bird hunting, right?
Yeah.
It's not pretty to butcher a moose, right? It's not pretty to butcher a sheep. It's not pretty.
Oh, exactly.
These are all things that happen, hundreds of thousands of times across the North American, millions of times across the North American landscape every year. But there's no helicopter from IFAW, hovering
That's
right
it.
over it when it happens.
Like, if a white-tailed deer looked as cute as a seal and people saw me like quartering it up in the bush somewhere, there would be public outrage. But yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. People don't see it, and organizations aren't being paid to fight against it.
Not yet. Hopefully none of them are watching right now, because they're
Yeah,
like, wait, I got an
exactly.
idea now.
Probably. Oh God. I'm not giving these people any ideas. Um, you did mention that there's different ages, like different ages you would harvest a seal at for different reasons. So are the main, like, I guess, I should ask, I shouldn't guess. What are the main reasons for harvesting seal? Like food, fur.
Sure. So, I mean, depending on where you're at, like certainly Inuit harvesters, other indigenous harvesters in the north are primarily harvesting for food.
Okay,
So they're targeting larger animals,
fair.
ergo older animals, for the most part. So once you get down into the kind of quote unquote commercial seal hunt, the primary target for the commercial seal hunt is the skin,
Okay.
the fur and leather products. But a growing part of that industry is also the oil. So seal oil is a great nutraceutical product, great nutritional supplement for omega-3 fatty acids, similar to fish oil or cod liver oil or whatever else. It's great for people. It's great for pets. We've got some of our members who are doing quite a bit of work now to promote the use of seal oil as a nutritional supplement for pets, because it does great things for their coats, does great things for their joints. We're working on a clinical trial right now for seal oil and pets that hopefully we'll be able to talk about more in a couple months,
Wow.
and to the point of being able to have seal oil be like prescribed by veterinarians
Oh, awesome.
to treat particular conditions. So and I mean, at this point people spend more on their dogs than they do on their kids, so it's the
Absolutely.
market to be in.
It is.
So there is some small meat harvest, I would say, in Newfoundland, but it's very
Oh,
traditional, very community based. So
okay.
it's not like this is not a food production industry
Okay.
yet, or right now, I guess. In years past it has been at times. In the future it probably will be again, because we have an
Okay.
enormous amount of incredibly healthy wild protein that's just not being harvested right now.
Well, that's it. I mean, I've never tried seal, but do you think, like, I assume you've tried it. And is it something that you think people would get into? Like, does it taste
Oh yeah, like seal meat, if handled correctly. And this
like
is
all wild game?
like all wild game. It's, we've all heard the people that say they won't eat Canada goose, or they won't eat bear meat, or they
Yes.
won't, oh,
I
bear
mean,
meat's it's
comment I
gamey and
get
it's whatever. It's like, no, well, just handle your bear properly. You can't shoot a bear
properly.
and throw it in the back of the truck. That's just not how this
Hack
works.
off a slice and throw it in the pan. Exactly.
Yeah. So like all things, if treated properly, it's absolutely delicious. And at this point, I've eaten seal meat just about every way that there
So
is.
cool.
I've eaten it raw and frozen. I've eaten it like in tataki. I've eaten it in stews. I've eaten it in lasagna. I've eaten it in spring rolls. I've eaten,
You can do anything.
yeah, it's very versatile if used properly,
Okay.
and it can be quite good, and from a nutritional standpoint, it's incredible. It's super high in iron, super high in magnesium, a couple other nutrients where it's very very high in
Very healthy.
niacin, vitamin A. Um, it's it's really good for you. But the thing that makes it very attractive for and of great interest to like Inuit or other people who are out on the land in the cold is because it's so high in niacin. It gives you that like niacin flush. You feel really warm when you eat it.
Oh,
So I've been at like, fancy receptions in Ottawa, in a suit and sealskin tie, and I'm like eating eating seal meat, sorry. And I'm eating not really paying attention to how much I've been eating. And then I'm like, so hot.
hot flashes.
Yeah, basically you're getting hot flashes from eating it.
Wow, I did not know that. That's really, really interesting.
Yeah. So
That would
it's
be a good tool to have.
I would love for more people to be able to access seal meat, for more people to be able to, go down to your specialty butcher and
Yeah.
get seal meat. Like I don't think it's something that, just a piece of seal meat on a styrofoam tray with some cellophane over it probably isn't going to attract a whole lot of people. It's very dark, like it's black basically.
Really?
Yeah, so it's because they're diving animals, they have to be able to hold a lot of oxygen in their muscle tissue. So, similar to like a diving duck. You
Okay.
open up a
Yeah.
diving duck and they're like super dark. Seal
Yeah.
meat is like a whole nother degree darker than a diving
Wow.
duck. Yeah, like it's basically black, which can make for some really interesting, high end restaurant platings that look
That would
wild and
look